Welcome to this evening's Raimy Fellows presentation. The Raimy Fellows program is a part of the Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy. It actually consists of two parts. The first part is a mini seminar in leadership, but the most important part is actually the research projects the Raimy Fellows do. Tonight, Matt Platz, who is in fact the executive director of the Corey Higher Education Council, is going to give a presentation on child care is workforce development, making the case for affordable and accessible child care in rural Pennsylvania. Matt's presentation is the sixth or seventh one this year. Kat DiVittorio, who is sitting right to my left, did a presentation on developing a rural autism hub in Corey, which she is now well on her way to actually making happen with the DiVittorio Autism Center. You should be paying attention for future announcements about that. And there have been a number of others this year. Brad Thompson did one on multi-generational workforce leadership. Ali Eagle did an all-day seminar in empowering women. Sarah McCall using libraries to deal with the loneliness crisis. Katie Phillips and Jacob Jones did a program on the mental health crisis amongst young people in Erie County. But tonight, Matt is going to talk about child care is workforce development. As I said, Matt is the director of the Corey Higher Education Council, which works on creating economic opportunities in southeastern Pennsylvania. Matt received his bachelor's degree from Edinburgh University, his master's degree from Mercyhurst University, and a PhD in leadership from Gannon University. He's a member of the board at the Junior Achievement, Pathways Alliance, and a number of other community programs. Matt?
Thank you, Dr. Roth. Are we good behind the podium? We're all right to be back here? All right. Well, thank you to Dr. Roth and the Jefferson. The collaboration here in Corey, before I get started, I wanted to mention this. The satellite programs, I believe, started here in Corey in 2021. The opportunities that people have to come to the Corey Higher Education Council to get Jefferson Educational Society programming is so important. A lot of the nights this room is completely filled, not as filled this evening, but we certainly enjoy that partnership and we're glad to be a part of it. One thing I want to mention, the next satellite program here at the Corey Higher Education Council is July 15th from 6 to 7:30, and that is Dr. Jeffrey Bloodworth, Men in Crisis, Class Despair, and Politics. And if you've ever listened to Dr. Bloodworth give a presentation, it's definitely worth stopping in. So that's the next one we have here. All right. So yes, thank you to the Jefferson. Also, I was able to become part of the JCLA in 2023. And our project, well, we'll get to that in a minute. The statement of the problem for this project, this Raimy project, is that childcare affordability, childcare accessibility, and the issues with our workforce kind of all collaborate to cause a problem here locally. How did I get to be interested in assessing childcare as a problem that kind of bumps into workforce? Like I said, I had the opportunity to join the JCLA, the Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy cohort in 2023, and our project was raising the next generation, realities of the child care landscape in Erie County. That opportunity provided a lot of insight about some of the issues that take place with child care, and my thought process and some of the things that we see here in Corey kind of led to that workforce development section. There was a section in this particular research project that addressed it, but it wasn't as in-depth, so I wanted to take a little bit further look. So when you start to talk about our workforce, one thing that people like to talk about a lot of times is the unemployment rate. Right now, that unemployment rate is sitting at approximately 4.2%. Now, the government and a lot of people will tell you 3 to 4%, that's full employment. That's not a problem. The president would probably say right now, we have basically full employment, but it doesn't give the full picture of everything that comes into play when you're looking at the situation with workforce. We have manufacturers here in Corey that have over 20 openings for full-time employment with a decent rate of pay. The more important statistic is the labor force participation rate. Right now, in April 2025, overall throughout the United States, the labor force participation rate is 62.6%. Those are people aged 16 and up that are eligible to work in the United States. This number gives a clearer picture of the workforce issues that are in place. So it's something that I wanted to take a little bit further look at. Now it gets more interesting from there. If you drop to Corry, Pennsylvania, the civilian labor force participation rate for Corry between 2019 and 2023 was only 52.4%. Again, 16 and up, that is the labor force. So almost 50% of the available workforce here in town isn't working. That's not working for our manufacturers, it's not working for childcare providers, it's not working for anyone. And it's a pretty serious problem. So today we had the Industrial Roundtable. That's an opportunity to meet with the Corry RDA, manufacturers, different businesses throughout town, and they provide some insights. One thing that constantly comes out of those discussions is that young people are lazy and don't want to work. We hear this all the time. It's kind of an oversimplification of what actually is occurring. And if you look at the generational share of the labor force, you can see that actually millennials, the ones that people complain about most often, are making up the most of the workforce right now, sitting at approximately 36%. Gen X, the best generation, is mine. We're right below that at 31%. And then you see where the baby boomers are starting to come down. That makes sense. They're dropping out of the workforce at 15, and Gen Z in there at 18. Working with young people and trying to understand what motivates them, that's another issue entirely. But this overgeneralization of young people are lazy and don't want to work is not a reality. There are just certain things facing them that keep them out of the workforce. So as a community education council, we are required to do a community needs assessment every 5 years. That community needs assessment is provided to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and we try to find out how we can best serve our communities. All 9 of the community education councils do these, and they're very different. Each council throughout the rural sections of Pennsylvania find out different things. This is an interesting graph. This came directly from the report. This is one section of the research that I'm not completely happy with because we didn't have a lot of participants. I believe it was 20 that we spoke to directly. But the interesting thing was when they did these contact surveys, they were outside of grocery stores and places that people were going during the day. The one point to note is that section where it says would like to be employed, 100%. So all 20 people said, I would really like to have a job, I just don't. You see there that 58.8% are currently unemployed of that total. Now, what are the barriers? How does this affect what we've been talking about? Why don't people work? Childcare was the number one issue, sitting at 58.3%. They just couldn't afford it or they couldn't access it. And it was those two things that were keeping all of the respondents out of the workforce, 58.3%. Other things that we do normally as workforce development, job opportunities and training programs were also included. Those are two things we're really good at. We have to get better at the childcare issue. So why does the workforce suffer in a community when there is a lack of affordable childcare? This is directly from childcaredeserts.org. If you ever go on there, you can look at your areas and see how you're affected by the things going on. Corry is directly affected by high poverty rates. The entire city is in a red area, indicating a very high poverty rate. And there it is. The median household income in Pennsylvania in 2023 is over $97,000. The median earnings by industry for Corry, the second section here. For men, we're looking at 45,000, a little over that. And then women, the ones that are most affected by this child care issue, are sitting at 27,000. Now, if you've ever done some calculations of what child care costs, a median household salary of $27,363 for the women, it just doesn't add up. And it will be continuing to be a problem well into the future if we don't find a solution. So similarly, in a lot of ways, why does the workforce suffer in a community when there's a lack of accessible childcare? Same website, you can slide it back and forth. You can see where the childcare deserts are. And Corey has a scattering of orange completely throughout the city. There just aren't enough slots. There's a few things that we found out as we went along, but we'll get to that in a moment. So typically, what do people consider to be workforce development? It's all the things that CECs, the community education councils, are very good at doing. We look at job or career identification. We provide a lot of training. We work with our partners at EC3, Erie County Community College, and NPRC. Upskilling or reskilling for in-demand jobs. We have welding, we have machining, we do all of the things to try to help our manufacturers. And we also work in talent attraction and retention. But that just isn't enough. We've done all of these things. We've been doing it well since 1991. But there are still problems with the workforce. And there it is. Our mission, the Corey Higher Education Council, promotes lifelong learning to empower individuals, produce a competitive workforce, and enhance the community's quality of life. Like I said, we offer all of these workforce offerings, welding, machining. We have partnerships with the high school and the CTC. We also have the partnerships with NPRC and EC3. The Manufacturing Business Association and Northwest Tri-County Intermediate. So we're there, we're in all these spaces doing the workforce things that need to be done. But if you go back a couple of slides, you see that it's just not enough. So when I started kind of taking a look, like what do we do? I was able to have a meeting with the YMCA. Michelle Brady is the executive director there, or CEO, I'm not sure which one. But she indicated that the biggest problem for them right now is not the space, not that they can't get families in, it's the ratios that they have to maintain. They just do not have enough employees to take the number of children that demand spaces. In that meeting, she indicated that there are 40 families currently on the waiting list for the Corey YMCA. We started with the YMCA because they're the only 4-star location for childcare in the city of Corey. So that was a great place to start. They provide most of the childcare here in town. I did a quick internet search. We also had the Corey Alliance Church that does a smaller daycare. I'm not sure if they're even doing it anymore. But there isn't a lot of other options in the city of Corey. We also know that certain places, a family member will watch 3 or 4 kids from the neighborhood. That happens quite a bit too. But the biggest issue is that the YMCA just does not have enough staffing. What we do know, though, is that it's not just a staffing issue. The YMCA's daycare only works during the day. Most of our manufacturers are working 3 shifts. There is absolutely 0 daycare options for people who would be working 2nd or 3rd shift. The only option would be to be with a family member or just remain out of the workforce. So I wanted to stress as we got going on this that this was not just a presentation about all the ills and the doom and gloom that comes along with providing workforce opportunities here in the city of Corey, as well as other rural areas throughout the Commonwealth. We wanted to be able to provide some solutions. And this was an important part of the Raimy process. I'm very happy to be able to come up with some things and different programs that we'll be able to use to get this moved forward. So one of the things is that the Erie County government and ECRA have decided to make a very large investment in childcare, recognizing that this is a huge issue across the county of Erie. So there's a really good opportunity to improve the situation across the board in several different ways. So right now, ECRA is partnering with a vast number of nonprofits and small businesses engaged in community development, job creation, wealth building, local business growth, all of the kind of things that we've talked about. And many of the projects initiated by these entities have the potential to be transformative to Erie County. How is ECRA doing that? They have three prongs of attacking the problem. They want to stabilize the workforce, incentivize facility expansions, and also new facility construction. So some of that is what has already gone out. My understanding is there is a very large grant already given to the YMCA to help stabilize their workforce and provide supplemental pay to improve the quality of the job itself. The pay for child care providers is another issue entirely. So this is the big thing that we're rolling out from the Corey Hyatt, and something I'm very excited to be able to do. Talking with Michelle Brady, she indicated that she just doesn't have enough trained workers to be able to meet the ratios, right? So what are we going to do about that? So we are fortunate. My predecessors had started an endowment with the Erie Community Foundation. The amount of that endowment has allowed us now to take out grants each calendar year over $15,000. So there is an opportunity here to create a scholarship program, and that is just what we're going to do. But we don't want to lose our trained people, right? So the deal is that if you choose to work for a child care provider after you get your education with our partner school, NPRC, and you agree to work 3 years minimum, after they graduate, they will receive a 50% scholarship of the total credit hours during their enrollment at NPRC. Now we're going to sweeten the pot a little bit more to provide a solution here in Corey. Students choosing to work for a child care provider in Corey for 3 years minimum after they graduate will receive a 100% scholarship of the total credit hours for the program that they choose. And there are two different ways to get the training at NPRC, and you can do that right here in this building. And like I said, if you meet those requirements, your tuition will be paid. The NPRC provides a Child Development Associate credential, which is a CDA, which is the basic credential that you would need to work in a child care facility. And we also have the Associate of Applied Science and Early Childhood Education. That is a 2-year program, but it also sets you up to be able to run your own daycare or be in charge and kind of manage and get one of the higher paying jobs. So we hope to be able to flood the local market with people who are trained in child care development, and that's our way that the Corey Hyatt is going to assist. Now, we've talked about the workforce, we've talked about meeting the requirements of the ratios for child care, but there's one more thing. And that problem is that the second and third shift workers, right? So if more space is ever needed for childcare, we will work with the Early Learning Resource Center and the Jam Team Foundation to write grants for the construction of 2 Miracle Micro Centers on currently blighted properties near the Corey Higher Education building. Some of that work has already started. Preliminary thoughts have already been developed. I've met with the folks at the Early Learning Resource Center and Jam Team. They're fully behind it, and we believe that we can get some of this done fairly easily. One of the ways that we'll do that is working with DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development at the state level. They have created, there was a pilot program that they provided last year for mixed-use housing development, and this would fit perfectly into one of those programs. Indications have been given that they are going to bring this program back in a more robust fashion later on in this fall. And there's a kind of a mock-up of what those would look like. So purchasing, acquiring, taking down blighted properties near us, finding options for the current inhabitants of the homes, but then building something that looks like this. Now, the cool thing about these is this is in-home childcare. So somebody actually runs the daycare and lives there. There's a look at what one of them would look like in the play area. So yes, this would provide the option where parents that work second or third shift would have a place to take their children. The owner-operator would actually be in the home with the appropriate amount of staff and being able to take care of the children at night. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is something else I'm really excited about. I mentioned a little bit earlier about the Community Education Council's needs assessments. The sample size that we got for people who responded to us probably isn't large enough to be generalized over larger populations. So I was concerned about that. I still remain concerned. We're making decisions based on some of the information we have there. But I have worked with Dr. Gage from Pitt Bradford to be able to submit a letter of intent for a research study to take a look at this a little bit further throughout the Commonwealth in each of the Community Education Council areas. So if we're successful, we wrote the letter of intent. If we're successful in getting that grant, we'll get $16,000 to be able to study all of this a little bit further and apply some more knowledge to what we're trying to get done. He's been successful in the past. He's written very brilliant research on several different topics. I'm excited to work with him, and it's kind of going to be one of the first things besides this tonight, where after I graduated with my doctorate, I get to do some real study and provide some information for people to use. So that's the presentation. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate everybody here. Are there any questions? If you have questions later, my information is there on the screen. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm more than happy to answer questions. But for the folks that are here, are there any questions?
So if you could summarize, if you would, please, Matt, there's 3 actual initiatives you want to undertake. Right, so there's one agricultural funding that would be new facilities, which is kind of the third one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is working with Northwest Pennsylvania Regional College to do actual training here in the building to increase staff.
Yes.
And then the third one, how is the agri one different than the third one?
When you do a capital project like that, you typically want to have a capital stack that isn't one particular funding source. They like to see other folks come in. So it's not that much different. Those 2 things would work in tandem to be able to build the buildings that we would need.
Have you gotten any feedback from the Corey area employers in terms of their interest in helping you pull this off?
It's been interesting with the Corey area employers. I wouldn't say that they are hesitant or not participating, that they're not looking for this to succeed in a good way. They are so bogged down in their day-to-day operations that it is very difficult to get them to a higher level thought process of things to come. One of the ideas that had been previously floated, and I've tried to float it in the industrial roundtable in different spaces, is will the manufacturers participate in a funding this to be able to get things like this off the ground? I'm met with a lot of hesitation. My belief is that if I could prove the concept and show them something that would actually work, they may come in at a later date. Now, these programs, obviously, grants are one-time things. You write it, you get it, and you build the building. Supplementing wages, where childcare, work is, if you're working in a childcare, they don't pay very well. So maybe something in the future to supplement the wages for the people that are there might be something. But if we can get some of this done, I think they'll come along. They're going to need to see it first. Yeah.
I wanted to hear a little bit more about the in-home daycares for second and third shift.
Sure.
Could you just expand on that topic a little bit?
Absolutely. It is very difficult to track. I know that county government and the Corey RDA are working right now. The county executive has gotten money into the Corey community to try to address that. So I know that they're working very diligently to find who those people are. The problem is if you're going to take government money, there's a certain level of expectation that probably comes with that. Some people who are taking, you know, an envelope with 50 bucks in it to watch a kid overnight, they're not going to self-report. They're not going to try to become legitimate. That's what they are. That's what they do. Second and third shift, since there are no options currently, if a person works and they have no other option for their child, it's probably just a grandparent or someone that they implicitly trust. That's kind of how it works. I know when my family was very young, my wife and I, you know, I worked first shift, she worked second. So like we actually took the kid to work to pass off, but that was kind of the deal for a long time to avoid the expense of childcare, which would have wiped out her salary completely. We worked, and I just didn't get to see her very often. And I'm sure that there are parents, you know, confronted with that now, or that option where grandma takes, you know, puts them to bed at night and takes care of them, then he comes and picks them up in the morning. But yeah, there's just no real options for it.
Yeah, I mean, your own experience validates it. You had an interesting slide earlier, where it's the differential in income men and women. But after COVID, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding, there's been some research on that the biggest cause of the drop of women's participation in the labor force is based on the average income figure you showed, when they simply did some sitting at the proverbial kitchen table, back in the envelope calculating what they were actually netting. They just decided that the family will somehow make it without that small marginal amount of money.
And that's a great point. We did work opposite shifts at one point in time, but there was a time that we were working on the same shift because she switched jobs. And honestly, she worked because she wanted to work, but her salary was wiped out by the child care at that time.
But that's true of almost all income levels, by the way. I mean, once you get past a certain threshold, obviously there's a larger net, but it impacts all income levels and all work levels.
So when you are looking at doing your child abuse, are you going to put an emphasis on separating the pre-K programs from the child care, to just like the daycare options?
I think that would be a wise way to go about it, just simply for the usable data that you get out of it. You know, there's a heavy push. You know, some of this research can be used later on for funding purposes. I know that they're at the state level, probably not at the federal level right now, but hopefully some of the federal money gets pushed to the states to address, you know, child care and early childhood education. Sometimes we say child care is just watching a kid. What is more important is that time from birth until 5, when most of the development happens in the brain. And we've completely separated that out from the educational pathway starting in kindergarten at 5. We're missing a real opportunity. I think that's an important distinction to make in the research if we're going to maybe push for some funding or thought processes in the future. So, yeah.
That's a really good point, because that's an important, there's a big difference between early childhood education and simply, I want to say this in a way that I don't mean it, simply babysitting the child. I mean, making sure the child is physically safe
Right.
in an environment, and in the worst case scenario, they then spend their day playing on a phone if they're old enough to know how to manipulate the phone, as opposed to
Reading to them.
environment where there's some,
The documentary No Small Matter, Jefferson was involved with that, right? The No Small Matter.
Child care and workforce development program, the fellow by the name of Court Gold did. And you can view the audience if they're interested to find all of those reports generated for workforce development and child care. Just go to the Jefferson website and search on those keywords and it'll pop up.
That documentary was a lot of the thought process that I had in my mind is, you know, there's just such a lost opportunity. My kids ask me questions all the time, like, how did you learn this? How do you have this vocabulary? And I know that it was the opportunities my mom gave me by taking me to the public library, and I could pick out 3 or 4 books. It is very different than reading on this screen. And I encourage my kids all the time, listen, you got to pick up books and read them. And everything, like being able to get my doctorate, I think started at a very young age because I was interested in reading books, and I used to fire through them very, very quickly. So that, you know, my experience in that space, it's so important for children to start learning at a very young age. And not the screen. I mean, I think you can carve a small portion out for that, but that should not be the focus.
So what's the next step?
Well, we're going to continue to work with our community partners. The political situation here has been dicey. You know, the recent primaries indicate that the local political leadership is going to start a different way. I think we'll have better conversations there. We're just going to, you know, we can make the announcement right now about the scholarship program for NPRC. We are going to do that. So if anybody out there is listening and thought about a career in early childhood education, stop in here. We'll figure out how to get you scholarship and on your way to working locally, at least hopefully in Corey, but maybe even in Erie County. So those are some of the first steps, and we'll keep working and heading that way. I think there's some good positive things. Much like Kat's presentation, this is not something that's just kind of amorphous and out there. We have some legitimate plans to move ahead, and I'm excited about it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Everyone.